Pre-season testing is about to rock our calendars from 26th to 28th February as we will be looking into some highly competitive sessions for all of the teams on the grid. But with so much coming ahead of us regarding the 2025 season, what should we expect out of the testing in general? And more importantly, which teams could be considered as dark horses after the tireless winter work? One of the key factors as to whether or not your season is going to be successful is the pre-season testing, whether or not you're going to sandbag or not. Teams will have 3 days of testing divided into 2 sessions, morning and afternoon one, and it's safe to assume that while they won't show all of their upgrades and innovations, there will be a lot of flow rakes and viz paint to see the airflow in certain areas of the cars. Majority of the teams have changed the concepts as much as 100%, with McLaren, Aston Martin and Ferrari being the most significant ones, but as Red Bull and Mercedes are mounted with the challenge to rise above their problems, could we see a very competitive season judging by these 3 days in Bahrain? The pre-season testing is one of the most important things in the sport of Formula One, and it's not by accident that it takes 3 days. The teams are going to explore everything they can about the new challenges, and they will certainly push some of the boundaries that they thought they knew on paper. For example, McLaren and Ferrari are entering the season with a brand new concept, and that shows the determination that they're willing to undergo just to prove that in the current era a lot of gains can be made while the regulations remain the same. There are certain areas of the car that we will be looking at a lot more frequently in Bahrain, and Bernie Collins from Sky F1 said it the best: the excitement before testing is something that justifies the competition awaiting ahead of us. Elaborating on this, Bernie said, "You're always pretty excited before testing. You will have seen lots of reports from management of the aero department about how they think the car will be. So there will be lots of discussion of how fast you think it will be or what development could happen. The biggest thing is you can never use that to say how competitive you're going to be. Even if they say the car is going to be 3 seconds a lap faster around Barcelona, for example, you don't know what everyone else has done. So there is excitement, but mixed with uncertainty. There's always something in a car's design that's a bit nervous, be it for a reliability issue or something else. Of course, some of the teams will focus more on 2026, so we shouldn't be expecting a lot of moves in the pre-season testing in Bahrain or in the entirety of the 2025 season. But on the other hand, the top teams have accepted the challenge of going in a bold direction and start a new endeavour with their designs. This means that they could be either gaining a lot of performance or losing ground compared to the rest of the grid, all of which should be shown in Bahrain. Ferrari, for example, would have a lot on their mind because it's the first time that they will have such a competitive lineup. So while the lap times in Bahrain might not be representative given the fact that both Leclerc and Hamilton will run different programs, it could very well suggest that the team understood Hamilton will need more than one season to compete for the championship. The team has a lot to lose and a lot to risk, therefore it would be easy to assume that Leclerc might be their preferred safe choice for the Drivers' Championship, whereas the goal for Hamilton will be to learn the race pace of the SF25 as much as he can in Bahrain in order to help with their goal to win the Constructors' Championship in the upcoming season. The competition will be fierce because they will go against 2 young bulls driving the MCL39, a car that has undergone heavy changes compared to its predecessor, with the most important one being the aggressive anti-dive suspension. Furthermore, the new chassis, bodywork and the V-shaped rear wing have all proven to be massive inventions on the car that reportedly gained around half a second of performance compared to 2024. Similar to Ferrari, McLaren don't have a preferred driver, and while in Bahrain both of the drivers will be looking to learn as much as they can about the car, the first race in Australia will show who's gotten the better grasp of it in these 3 days. What we need to pay a lot of attention to is the feedback of the drivers, so we should be expecting a lot of communication between them and the race engineers. This is something that Bernie Collins has also talked about, stating that here the most important thing is to see whether the on-track data will match the simulations and what the changes are that are needed to be made ahead of the first race of the season. Elaborating further on this, Bernie said the drivers will give good feedback. If their feedback is this car is terrible, then it's going to be a different year. Sometimes there is a test that takes a lot of time to change a component, so it might be a front suspension test which takes a few hours to do. You shouldn't do that in Bahrain, or try not to, because there is so much lost time. Whereas in the shakedowns you have 200 kilometers and time is unlimited, so you can take all the time in the world to change things. So what are the teams that will draw the most attention ahead of the pre-season testing in Bahrain, apart from Ferrari and McLaren? Well, Red Bull have found themselves in a very unusual situation where, for the first time in this newly regulated era, they are the ones chasing performance and other teams are ahead of them. And with the latest statements from Jos Verstappen regarding the team's inability to build a race-winning car, we should see how the RB21 turned out to be. The technical director, Pierre Wash, was adamant that the narrow operating window is their strength and not their weakness, because it makes the car much more easy to drive, and the challenge is always to put it in that window. So the goal for Verstappen and Lawson will be to map out all of the challenges that this version of the car will have and then fix it thanks to the increased time in the wind tunnel. Aston Martin is a team that we need to be very cautious of, because while their goal is definitely 2026 and the new partnerships with Honda as well as Newey, Cowell and Cardeal, a lot of these impacts will be felt in the 2025 season as well. This is a team who has been adamant that they shouldn't be written off in the following period, so with Alonso's latest belief that they have what it takes to compete at the front with a brand new challenger, can we see a 2023-like version of the Silverstone-based squad? The Bahrain test will show whether they have a solid basis to work on or whether they should scrap any plans they have in mind and focus on 2026 as early as possible. But with Lance Stroll behind the wheel, it's hard to imagine a miracle in the Constructors' Championship by any means. Mercedes have also raised a lot of questions with the latest change of attitude, as they were believed to have given up very early in 2025 for two reasons: failing to understand how these regulations work and having the youngest driver on the grid drive for them in 2025. However, that drastically changed in the past couple of weeks, where Russell said that the engineers in Brackley implemented tons of changes on the W16, and for the first time ever, the changes are not revealing other issues with the car. What he wanted to suggest is that Mercedes will be here to shake up the pecking order and win races in an occasional manner. So whether that would be beneficial for the team's development in the mid-season war, I guess time will tell. And what we must not forget is that this season will see 6 rookies participate as full-time drivers, which hasn't happened in quite some time now. This could mean either good or bad news, because if they prove to be highly competitive, it's easy to assume that it suggests a change in generation, because 30% of the drivers are doing exactly what they are supposed to do at a very young age. But on the other hand, if they fail to live up to the expectations, we can see them being replaced in, I would imagine, the blink of an eye. So it's a double-edged sword for the youngsters, as they'll be looking to learn as much as they can in Bahrain. A great pressure has been applied to Doohan, as the Aussie has only one race under his belt and is feeling the presence of Colapinto, who is breathing down his neck as he's been brought by Briatore to be the perfect replacement if something doesn't go well with Jack. With all this in mind, which team are you the most hyped up about ahead of the pre-season testing in Bahrain? And more importantly, do you think that it will be the dark horse who wins it all? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the FIA's response to the fans booing towards the governing body and Red Bull, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.